Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much for that. First of all, could I introduce Robert Lennox from the fire service? I know he's got a bigger, grander name than that, but that's what I remember anyway. So Robert's with us today and is going to give us his presentation. Okay, can I move on to...
Sorry, Chair, to interrupt. Just can I take the suggestion first before we begin?
Yeah, I was going to do that. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. In the meeting, I have Councillor John Anderson, Archie Buchanan. I don't see Councillor Campbell.
I am here.
Councillor Campbell, yep. Thank you.
Yep, I'm here. Yep.
I've got Councillor Convery, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Dorman, Councillor Dryburgh, Councillor Fagan. I don't have Councillor Fagan in the meeting. I've got Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Gray, Councillor Harrow. I don't have Councillor McAdams. Councillor McAdams in the meeting? Nope. I've got Councillor McDonald, and I don't have Councillor Miller.
Apologies.
Miller? Apologies, thank you. I've got Councillor Scott. Don't have Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Stevenson in the meeting? Nope. I have Councillor Wardhaw and Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thanks to Fiona for sending me the link. I was struggling to get a link there.
Right. I'm glad you got it.
Okay, Chair, I'll hand back to you too.
Okay, thank you. So can we have the declaration? You've got the declaration of interest done? Yep. Okay. We've got two sets of minutes. One from the 24th of February, another one 24th of March. Could I have a proposer and seconder for the first one, 24th of February? Don't all rush at once.
I'll propose the first one.
Okay. Seconder. Come on, folks.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to second?
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
Right,
can't remember if I was there, but I'll do it.
Right, Ian, thank you. The minutes from the 24th of March, could I propose and seconder?
I'll propose.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second.
I think he's rushed sleeping out here. Okay, thank you very much for that. That's the minutes dealt with. Item 4 is basically the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. I got it right this time. If I could hand over to Robert and he'll take his... Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Bobby Lennox, Station Commander for East Kilbride. Outgoing Station Commander. I'm actually finished up last week to moved on to pastures new. However, I was in charge during this reporting period and I'll go over the report and the activity levels for the last year or so. I'm going to share my screen with you. Please let me know if you can see it. Can you all see that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'm broadcasting live from a operational fire station. There could be a bit of background noise. If you hear the sirens going off, please don't be alarmed. So this is the report for the previous year, 1st of April to 31st of March this year for the East Kilbride locality. Purpose of the report is to provide you good elected members with an overview of Scottish Fire and Rescue Service activity within South Lanarkshire and how this activity is measured against agreed targets for the period 2020 to 2021. A bit of the background: on the 1st of April 2013, the 8 former fire and rescue services within Scotland merged to form a new single fire service. A key requirement of the new legislation encompassing the single service is the production of a local area plan aligned to local authority boundaries, and to provide periodical reports as to progress against the key priorities within this plan. Within the current plan, local area plan for South Lanarkshire, there are 7 key priorities, which are domestic safety, unintentional injury in the home environment, non-domestic fire safety, deliberate fires, unwanted fire alarm signals, also known as UFAS, road safety, and preparing to respond. From these 7 key priorities, performance targets were devised and incorporated into the local area plan. A summary with activity levels and comments for each of the performance indicator areas are included below in this report. So I'll go through a bit of the terminology in case anyone isn't familiar with a primary fire and a secondary fire. So a primary fire is usually a more serious fire involving property or injuries to a person, and a secondary fire is usually a smaller fire that occurs outdoors. So in this document, We'll be covering deliberate primary fires, deliberate secondary fires, accidental dwelling fires, accidental other building fires, fatal fire casualties, non-fatal fire casualties, excluding precautionary check-up by the ambulance service, special services rendered by the service, road traffic collisions, special services, fatal and non-fatal casualties, false alarm malicious, and false alarm unwanted fire alarm signals in non-domestic settings. The activity totals and other figures quoted within the report are published in the interests of transparency and openness. They are provisional in nature and subject to change as a result of ongoing quality assurance and review. Because all figures are quoted are provisional, there may be slight differences in the period totals as quoted as a result of revisions or additions to the data in our systems. This is a slightly different report to previous years. It's more of an infographic report, and there's a colour coding system with green showing improvement, amber or yellow showing relatively static, and red showing a decline in performance. So all the figures you'll see over the next few slides will be compared against previous reporting period 2019 to 2020, and that will be the comparison for the arrows going up or arrows going down. So the first area of performance is deliberate primary fires. There was 41 deliberate primary fires that took place in the East Kilbride locality in 2020 and 2021. 50% rise on the previous year. There's been a notable increase in deliberate primary fires during the reporting year, with vehicle fires being a major factor. There were 6 fires in Avondale and Stonehouse and 5 in East Kilbride Westward, the two highest activity areas. With numbers unusually high, the fire service was quick to react to early indications of a potential trend and communicated this to Police Scotland via the Community Safety Partnership Hub, utilising community intelligence reports. Police Scotland initiated a targeted approach in these areas of South Lanarkshire to support demand reduction in this category. And I'll just add at this point in time, there was a spate of vehicle fires in this area in Q3, which was during the winter time, and it's been sort of eradicated. There hasn't been any activity in this area since that Q3 spate of activity, so that's obviously pleasing to see. Deliberate fires have been, obviously, in dwellings have been I've seen a sharp rise. There were 10 deliberate dwelling fires across East Kilbride. However, closer scrutiny revealed that most common area has been East Kilbride Central South and the Murray and Westwood areas, with 7 in that ward alone. This is the highest increase of any East Kilbride ward activity, with dwelling incidents and more than doubling from the previous year. Community intelligence plays a large part in our ongoing analysis and is shared amongst partners to help mitigate future occurrences. Trend analysis at a local level continues. And of the 7 primary fires that I mentioned before, these mostly occurred in common closes within blocks of flats. I'll stop for questions at this point in time if anyone's got any questions on deliberate primary fires.
Questions, please.
Okay, I can't see who's speaking. I just want to fire away.
Yeah, Robert, it's Jerry Conway, councillor for Westwood and the Murray. Do we know any reasons why there's such an increase in these fires? Is it kids or is it adults?
Yeah, I think it's been linked to obviously a lack of youth engagement, Jerry, in that area. Obviously, due to the lockdown, the youth engagement by ourselves and other services has been hampered, and that seemed to have seen a rise in youth behaviour in these type of areas. So it's closely linked to that type of other criminal activity as well. So we do believe it's been put down to youth, a lack of youth engagement, and probably a lack of opportunities for young people during the pandemic.
So that's no reason for setting fire to places. So did the police catch them at all?
We're working with the police to obviously try and identify trends and patterns. There wasn't any arrests off the back of that, no. We've been trying to go out and do some engagement work where possible and try to be visible in these areas to make sure that we try and deter people from doing any further acts like this. But there wasn't any arrests to my knowledge, to be honest.
Okay. Thanks very much.
No worries.
Thank you.
Bobby, was there any injuries associated with any of the fires?
No, of these fires, I'm not aware of any injuries. No, it was. I think Canberra House. There were 2 incidents there, and there was other flats, but it's just been people setting fire to items in the close, leading to smoke logging. I don't believe there was any actual injuries occurred as a result of that. Anybody else?
Yeah, Chair, it's Grim Campbell here. Can I have a go? Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
Go ahead.
thanks, Robert. It's Grim Campbell here from
Hi,
Straven.
Graham.
You mentioned Avondale and Stonehouse.
Yep.
You specifically called it out. Is it the usual one or two places that keep having the same fires, or is there a bigger picture that we should be thinking about?
No, I'll be real honest with you. I think it was maybe linked to organised crime, these vehicle fires.
Don't say it more. You've just answered my question. I actually was talking to the cops about that an hour ago. Okay,
that's absolutely fine.
Particular one place. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No worries.
Councillor Wartoy gets his hand up.
Yeah. In attending to deliberate fires, have there been any incidents where fire crews have actually been subject to attack by youths or other individuals when going to these fires? Because there is sometimes a feeling that sometimes these fires are lit just to get fire crews out.
No, you're absolutely right. That has happened elsewhere, but very fortunately, it's not happened in East Kilbride. It's not an issue we've encountered in recent memory at East Kilbride, but it has happened elsewhere in South Lanarkshire.
And we know, Robert, it has happened here in Avondale, based on my conversation of an hour ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anybody else?
Chair, and Chair, apologies. I've been a bit late on because I've had some battery issues here, but I've picked up most of that presentation. I did want to ask in relation to high-rise properties, and I know that for the past 3 or 4 years, basically since Grenfell, I know there's been a different approach when it comes to the response to those high-rise properties. I'm just wondering, is that still the case, or is there, and to what extent have high-rise properties been associated with the sort of anti-social fire raising?
I don't have that breakdown. I can possibly get that for you. It's not an area of concern for us, to be honest. Our response has remained largely the same. Immediately after the Grenfell incident, there was a heightened response, but that's been now scaled back down to our normal operating procedure. And there hasn't been a great deal of activity in high-rise premises in East Kilbride over the reporting period.
Good. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Jim, can you take your hand down?
Any more questions on that area? I'll take silences, no.
On you go.
Thank you. The next area activity is deliberate secondary fires. Again, secondary fires are usually involving refuse or fires that occur outdoors. 145 deliberate secondary fires in the reporting year, up 32% on the previous year. Disappointing to see this, to be honest, in the rise. The year-end figure is 32%, which is greater than the previous year. It should be noted that the 2019-20 returned a 5-year low and can often be challenging to follow that year. And however, this year's total remains in line with the 3-year average, if you look at the trend line at the top right of the screen there. Bonfire season activity between the 4th and 6th of November is scrutinised closely to assist with local trend analysis. However, on this occasion, the bonfire season returned the lowest percentage of incidents in that period in 3 years, therefore was not a major factor. As you're all probably aware, there was very little bonfire activity organised or otherwise in the East Kilbride area, which was obviously a bonus and helping reduce this number. So it wasn't that these figures made a spike on that 32%. East Kilbride South Ward stands out as a return in the highest activity within with refuse fires, and the East Kilbride South Ward with refuse fires in the Green Hills area on the increase. This rise in activity disappointing, especially after the successful reductions witnessed following the partner-led Common Sense initiative that took place 3 or 4 years ago. A refreshed focus will be placed on this following the easing of restrictions which have impacted engagement activity that I've previously mentioned. And refuse fires remain the most common incident overall, and we strive to reduce the demand through our education and engagement programmes and raising awareness of the risk with partnership groups such as local problem solving groups and community safe partnership hub. So overall in Scotland, I'm very sad to report that secondary fires and refuse fires are on the increase across the country, and East Kilbride obviously is symptomatic of that as well. I did mention it in there, and part of the word in there that our lack of engagement has no doubt had an impact on that. And it just goes to show that how good our youth engagement process has been over the years. But due to coronavirus, that has been majorly impacted. And I'd welcome any questions on that.
Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question now.
Fiona?
Yeah. So I'm one of the councillors in East Kilbride South, and I know you're saying that your engagement work's been really good, but have you done any at all through the schools, even though they've been doing stuff online? I know other organisations have done some stuff through Google Classroom and stuff. I'm just wondering if you've done any of that throughout the period of COVID restrictions.
I'm not aware of any online or virtual engagement in terms of youth engagement that our action team has done. That's not to say it's not happened, but it's certainly not been something that we've rolled out across all schools in South Lanarkshire or even East Kilbride. So it has been very, very limited. I'm sad to report, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you think that's something that you might do? Because obviously we might be in this situation again. It would be sad to see if we end up with an increase in fires because we've not sort of moved on with our engagement.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. Sometimes the challenge comes with the curriculum and getting time to get involved in the timetable. That's often the challenge we have with certain schools in South Lanarkshire, that we'd be happy to go in there and engage with the kids, but the problem is getting time within their schedule, and especially because everything that's happened with their education, it's been postponed. Sometimes we are the sort of maybe well doing the pecking order, if it's fair to say. That's sometimes the challenge that we face, but we're certainly happy to go out there and engage with young people on any platform or during any part of their life.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Gray?
Yep. Thank you very much for that. I'm also
Can't hear you, Jerry.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Is that better?
That better.
Yeah.
Right. I'm also a councillor for East Kilbride South, and we've had quite a lot of incidents of deliberately fire raising in the past few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Also got quite a lot of incidences of fireworks going off, especially at the high point. Now, we're very lucky that we managed to actually find out who it was actually doing it, and 3 people got charged about 2 weeks ago. And I'm just wondering, is there anything being done around that area, because that is becoming a nuisance? Also, we have the issue with it's going to happen again this weekend, the signs of things as well. And I just wonder if anything's been done about that.
Yeah, we've currently got a couple of working groups with the police. They're tackling the Murray Square area, the Greenhouse area as well, East Kilbride. These are the 2 main areas of activity, certainly for the fire services point of view. So we've got a multi-agency approach looking at these things, and we're trying to get out there and again, it all comes back to youth engagement, which is believed to be the main youth are believed to be the main sort of perpetrators in this sort of activity. So we're really trying really hard to look at every avenue to try and get back into, whether it's universal connections or any sort of centres, to try and get back in there and engage with these young people. We have also done a lot of reassurance visits in the area with around residents and businesses as well, to provide a bit of reassurance to in these areas where there has been high activity.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think that's all we've got there.
Good.
No, I've got one.
Okay.
Yeah, cheers. The bit about deliberate secondary fires, and also the last bit with refuse, does deliberate mean malicious fires?
Yeah.
Or with refuse fires, is this just people who are maybe burning stuff and then it gets out of control, or is it a mixture of the two?
No, that wouldn't be deliberate. That'd be classed as accidental. It's people who are intentionally setting fire to rubbish or anything really. It could be anything outside, any small fire. It could be grass as well. A secondary fire would be counted as a grass fire. A deliberate refuse fire is more the ones we're trying to target, and that's people setting fire to other residents' bins and things like that. And where that becomes really serious is where they're setting fire to bins in common closes and things like that as well. So that's the main focus. However, secondary fires can be really anything from trees to grass or anything in between.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Anyone else?
No, that's you.
Thank you. The next KPI I'm going to talk about is accidental dwelling fires, which are about 56, which was down 10%, which is pleasing to see. Encouraging reduction in this category. At the start of the pandemic, the fire service placed scrutiny on the potential effects of people spending more time in their homes. Despite a slight peak in Q1, the number of incidents have levelled off throughout the year, so much so that the total for 2021 is the lowest in 3 years. The main cause of domestic fires remains cooking, and the human factors contributing are people falling asleep or being distracted. Alarms were present in almost 80% of homes, and they operated and raised the alarm in all but 3 occasions. The fire safety message continues to be delivered on various platforms, such as local press, television, social media, including Facebook and Twitter. And despite being unable to drive forward with our home fire safety visit programme in the same way, due to coronavirus, we continue to engage with most vulnerable members of our communities through telephone consultation and social distance visits. So that's some of the work that we have done over the last year. We did recognise that most people were spending more time at home, and we put a lot of focus and attention into that, in particular people who were over 50 and who smoked and are possibly dependent on medical oxygen. That was the sort of campaign that we led, and it looks as if it's made a good impact. And I welcome any questions on that.
Questions?
Chair, myself. I was going to ask there, I know it was disrupted last year and delayed, but it's only now with the easing of restrictions, I think, that we're allowing people into homes to undertake work. And I'm thinking about the kind of fire alarms and carbon monoxide alarms and the sort of requirements that are sort of changing around that for people that are in flatted accommodation. Are you able to tell me what the latest is on that? And is there any kind of plan to have a kind of catch-up campaign, given that we've had that disruption?
Yeah, so we've kept the waiting list, if you like, during the pandemic. We've got quite extensive lists for East Kilbride. What we have done during that time is, rather than just holding somebody's details, we've contacted them by the telephone and provided sort of key safety advice in the interim period before we can go out and fit the smoke alarms or test their smoke alarms or whatever that may be that is required. So what we're doing just now is, after we've moved out to level 4, we're now targeting the high risk category. And these people have been scored based on the questions they've answered in a sort of scoring matrix. So we're targeting our high risk requests right now, and we're going out with boots on the ground, and we've got people are out doing the visits, physical visits now, fitting smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms if required. We are also now fitting the new standard linked alarms as well, where required. And that would be to be people who don't have any protection at all, and that these alarms are linked by Bluetooth. So your staff have had that training to how to fit these, and that's currently ongoing just now. So we are making progress on that. However, anybody that's got existing alarms, if they're not linked, then it's up to them to get it's their responsibility essentially to get the alarms linked. We're not going to be fitting people. We're not going to go back out a second time and fitting alarms that we fitted to previously. If that makes sense and answers your question.
Councillor Harrow.
Sorry, I'll put my hand down, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Switch your mics off if you're not using them, please. Any other questions? No, that appears to be all. Rob?
Good, thank you.
Carry on.
The next category is accidental other building fires, and there was one notable one that I'll talk about in a wee minute. So there were 17 building fires in the last reporting year. It's almost the same, a slight increase of +3. The figure remains below the 3-year average by almost 10%, which is good to see. Most fires occurred in factories, and hospitals and private garden sheds. And it should be noted that the fire within Hairmeyer's COVID ward was not extensive. However, the medical staff carried out an excellent job ensuring the safety of patients through swift and structured evacuation, whilst under strict COVID protocols and restrictions. Again, that was a challenging incident for the fire service to arrive at, and it was dealt with very well, we believe, and there was no injuries, a bit of damage to the ward itself, but no injuries to any person, staff or any patients. Fires in commercial premises are subject to robust scrutiny, and we work closely with our fire safety enforcement colleagues to ensure owners and staff comply with their legislative duties, but also provide support and guidance where required. And I'd welcome any questions on that subject.
Any questions? No, it doesn't appear to be.
Okay, thank you. The next category is fatal fire casualties, and sadly and regretfully there was one fatal fire casualty during the reporting year, which was considered accidental. An elderly male in Straven sustained burns following a fire within his home and succumbed to his injuries. A joint partnership case review took place to establish background and future learning. On all occasions, firefighters work with dignity and respect and always follow up these incidents with post-incident response to surrounding households, providing fire safety advice and reassurance. And that's part of our policy to, if there is any incidents, whether it's fatal incidents or just serious incidents, we go out there and provide a bit of public reassurance and make sure that adjoining properties and streets have got smoke detection and fire action plans. And I'd welcome any comment on that.
Ian, your hand's up again.
Again?
That's you this time. Any questions? No, doesn't appear to be.
Okay. During the reporting year, there was 8 non-fatal fire casualties, excluding precautionary check-up, and that's up 5 from the previous year. And now, obviously, a previous downward trend this year increased towards the 2016-17 total. 90% of casualties occurred at dwell incidents, with 1 casualty sustaining a fire injury using outdoor machinery. There were 5 female casualties and 3 male. On 2 occasions, the casualties were taken to hospital with slight injuries, and 6 people were given first aid at the scene. There was no significant prevalence of alcohol or drug impairment during these incidents, and 6 casualties were overcome by smoke, with the remainder suffering from slight burns. Any comment on that?
No.
Okay. One of the last categories is special services, road traffic collisions. As you'll probably be aware, a lot less cars on the road in the last year. There were 16 incidents, which is down 14 from the previous reporting year. With less cars on the road due to COVID restrictions, it's not surprising that the total is its lowest level in 5 years. Notwithstanding this, and despite a minor increase last year, there remains a downward trend in this category. On 9 occasions, vehicles were made safe with no requirement to carry out any casualty extrications using cutting equipment. 6 extrications were carried out to release vehicle occupants, and with numbers at a low level, there was no significant location trend identified where there was an even spread across the committee area. Road safety remains a key engagement theme in South Lanarkshire, and will continue with our virtual reality education programme when restrictions allow. And that's something that we go out and do with young drivers, kids that are 5th and 6th year at school. We can give them the virtual reality training by giving them VR headsets and showing them what it is like to be in a road traffic collision. It's very powerful stuff, and it seems to have a good response, and it's well received by the schools. And it's something that, if anyone's interested in, I would happily let you have a wee shot at that and let you see it yourself.
Questions? Okay.
No, I think I beat everybody off. Next category, special service, apologies, background noise, is fatal and non-fatal casualties through special services. There were 34 last year, a downward trend of 11. This year's total is significantly lower than the previous year and the lowest recorded in 5 years. There were 2 fatal casualties during special services, both elderly males located within their homes after a call from a family member. This is becoming a very common incident type, where the fire service is often required to effect entry to locate and render assistance to unresponsive residents. For non-fatal casualties, injuries were sustained predominantly at road traffic collisions, affecting entry into incidents equated to 21% of our activity under this performance indicator, and residents have commonly become incapacitated following a fall in the home. This is something that we commonly experience now as forced entry, usually on behalf of the ambulance service. So these figures sometimes become attached to our KPIs, because it's not necessarily a fire service incident. We go and force entry for the ambulance service to go in there and provide care. The fire service continues to support the unintentional injury agenda via its respective subgroup to minimise the risk of injury in the home environment and to drive down casualty rates. To support this agenda, funding was approved for the Salt Stick Initiative in November. The commitment and effort from all external partners to help reduce falls in this category has been outstanding. A careful and meticulous approach was taken with the sourcing of salt sticks, ensuring best value. This allowed the group to purchase 1,600 salt sticks, with the fire service stored and help distribute across all 4 locality areas in South Lanarkshire. Supporting partners included Care and Repair, Seniors Together, Vasland, Police Scotland, SL Sheltered Housing, ourselves, and SL Leisure and Culture. And that was a good initiative that we basically were involved in, and we're quite proud to be part of that. Is there any questions on that? No.
Nope.
I think within the last 2 categories, you'll be glad to hear. False alarm malicious. This figure is in line with the 3-year average. It's 23 false alarm malicious calls over the reporting period, a slight increase of +2. This was largely due to a residential children's home at Hunters Lodge Children's Centre, where we had 9 actuations in a 1-week period. This was raised through the Community Safety Partnership Hub along with Police Scotland, and we took targeted intervention there, and there hasn't been any activity since that last actuation, which was good to see. Historically, education premises have returned the highest number of calls, but the shift in activity is evident due to the COVID restrictions in schools. As schools return from lockdown, there will be continued scrutiny placed in this category, with an expected shift in performance moving forward. We continue to share data with South Lanarkshire Council Education Facilities Manager, and that's something that we've seen a bit of a downward trend due to a lack of kids in school, but it's something we're keeping a close eye on as well. Any questions on malicious calls?
No, the question I was wanting to ask, Robert, what's a salt stick?
So a good question. A salt stick is basically a long walking stick, but it dispenses salt for the bottom of it. So they're disposable, but it's just to assist people maybe with poor mobility, usually older people, so they can use that to salt their path, or they can salt their doorstep to avoid having a slip or a fall. So these salt sticks are basically just a big plastic tube with salt contained within that, and that's how it works. And they seem to be very well received and quite useful. It's very hard to tell how effective they have been, because we have to wait on the data coming back for that, but it certainly have been well received by anybody that's received them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. The last section is about false alarm, unwanted fire alarm signals, also called UFASs, and these are the ones that take place in in commercial or business settings. 376 over the last year in East Kilbride locality, 20% decrease, which is good to see. That's based over the last. The lowest recorded total in the last 5 years, which is obviously good to see. Alarm actuations in care homes topped the list, with hospitals close behind, which is always to be expected. And examining the cause of alarms, the primary human factors are alarms being accidentally sent off or carelessly set off due to cooking. Operational crews engage with duty holders following each incident, and this indicator also forms part of a fire risk assessment audit. We continue to reinforce premises owners' responsibilities and the simple rules to follow to avoid unnecessary and costly actuations. We've appointed local UFAS champions in fire stations to promote improved analysis of these incidents, which allows for better targeted intervention and engagement. Care homes, education premises and hospitals remain an area of focus for demand reduction moving forward. And is there any questions on that last category?
No questions.
Okay, happy to take any questions. Any other questions in terms of fire service activity that Andy's got, if maybe that's came to them in the last 10 minutes?
This is the time to put your hand up. Nothing so far.
Okay.
Last call.
I've got my hand up.
Don't see it, Jim. On you go, Jim.
Well, showing on the screen.
Not on my screen.
Oh, you're in Greenhills. Parking in residential areas, in every ward there are areas where, particular weekends in the evening, parking is, it's chock-a-block.
Yeah.
Does that present problems? Are you aware of problems that has presented in particular locations? And if it does present a problem, is that information communicated to the Council Roads Department?
I know that there's some streets in East Kilbride that historically are challenging, let's just say, to get the fire engine through. We've not encountered any periods where we haven't been able to respond due to parking, but it does take a lot of skill sometimes, and it does sometimes delays our response. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't, but there isn't like any incidents where we couldn't get there because of parking. But there is some streets that we are aware of, but people are double parked on both sides of the road. It presents a challenge for us, but we always do manage to either get through or find an alternative route. We have run a Twitter campaign before to try and promote better parking, and it shows you the width of a fire engine. It shows you the depth required to get through there. And we try promoting that campaign every year. It's a seasonal thing, but I'm aware that there is some places in East Kilbride that are just historically been challenging to get through, but it hasn't given us any problems as such recently.
Thanks for that. Hands down, Jim. Anybody else? Okay, if I could say on behalf of all of us, that was very interesting, Rob.
Okay.
A lot of good information in there.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no last calls, I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Right, we'll move on, folks. Two things, place scheme grant applications and community grants. I'll take the place scheme first. You've all had a wee look. Are there any issues you want us to go through before we move it? No? Okay, can I propose and seconder for the place scheme grants?
I'll propose, Archie.
Thanks, you. Anybody else?
I'll second it.
Margaret? Okay, can we move on to community grants? Propose and seconder?
I'll propose it.
Margaret? Jerry? Okay. Well, that's all the business we have today, folks. Thank you very much for attending. Is there anything else, Tracy?
No, that's